Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'd like to call to order the June 20th meeting of the Downtown Design Review Board. Will the board and ex officio members please introduce themselves? Starting over here with Cameron.
Cameron Bolin, AIA representative.
Matthew DeBard-Laban, Downtown Knoxville Alliance representative.
Dallas DeArmond, Knoxville, Knox County Planning.
Lindsay Crockett, Planning.
Josh Wright, Urban Design Representative.
Suzanne Taravella, Neighborhood Representative.
Perry Childress, East Tennessee Community Design Center.
Jared Worsham, Downtown Resident Representative.
Is that on? Yeah. Okay. Laura Len, Downtown Resident Representative.
Christina McGrath Tillery, City Law Department.
Mark Reel, City of Knoxville Plans Review and Inspections.
Thank you for coming, everybody. The minutes from the June 20th meeting were provided in the agenda packet. Are there any corrections or comments?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Well, were there any staff approvals? Lindsay?
So the one, since the agenda was published, is a new secondary structure at 2922 Dempster Avenue. That shed measures 12 by 16 feet, and it's located in the rear right corner of the property. That's it.
Thank you for that. Then we can go ahead and move into our certificates of appropriateness. So what we have here is a series of buildings that are similar and next to each other. So Lindsay's going to go through all of them, but we'll start out with 5B 24IH 3430 Gap Road.
Yeah, exactly. These are four houses. They have an identical front setback and parking layout. The footprint is identical. And so I will run through them as a group. We will need four separate motions, but to save time, we can discuss these together. I will run through the changes made since the previous submission and the description of work as part of these findings. So this was postponed at the May meeting to allow the applicant to address the various conditions of approval. And I'll go through how some of the revisions have been provided. So the houses are now proposed to be set 25 feet from the front property line. The revised proposal has been, it aligns the four new houses on the block. Previously, they were set at different intervals from the front property line. It's a one-story residence that's proportional to the dimensions of the lot and the other houses on the block. The site plans do feature relatively large side setbacks. The application proposes a concrete driveway. The infill housing guidelines recommend that on streets without alleys, parking areas should go at least 20 feet behind the front facade of the house, with access limited to one lane between the street and the front facade. However, this is a very narrow street with a steep slope, so the turnaround may be required based on the site's topography and the conditions of Gap Road. If possible, it should be omitted. Final site plans should meet city engineering standards. Overall, the facade is similar in scale and width to the context. The house is proposed for a concrete slab foundation. This was reflected in the previous recommendation that the foundation should be at least 12 inches tall to be compatible with the broader neighborhood. Topography of the site may also affect the house's foundation, as these lots are relatively sloped. The drawings depict a concrete slab. The revised application still shows a 4 feet 5 inch deep entry stoop on the site plan, and then an 8 feet deep front porch on the floor plan. So the 8 foot deep porch does meet the guidelines, but the final site plan should include an accurate porch measurement. The revised application has incorporated windows on the left elevation and on the right elevation per the staff recommendation. The application doesn't include information on siding materials. Guidelines recommend that clapboard-like siding be used in new houses and discourages vertical siding. The house should feature horizontal lap siding instead of board and batten, and that should be reflected on the drawings. The proposed new construction should be differentiated in design from the other 3 new houses proposed on Gap Road. Design tactics typically include roofline modifications, different porch designs, or other methods. So in response to the previous staff report and the board decision, which was to postpone to present these to the board, the applicant has stated they will vary the houses via siding color and porch railings. The porch railings are not shown on the drawings. So the staff recommendation for all of these would be that the site plan meet city to approve, subject to the conditions that the site plan meet engineering standards, omitting the front yard turnaround if possible. The foundation be elevated to at least 12 inches to reflect historic houses in the neighborhood with a foundation profile submitted to staff. That's showing the topography. The front porch design measure at least 8 feet deep. The siding be horizontal lap instead of board and batten, and the siding be revised to differentiate from the other new construction with approval by staff.
Thank you for all of that information, Lindsay. I see the applicant is here. Can you please state your name and address and give us any of your thoughts?
Hi, I'm Dawn Arian. I'm the owner of Bait Development, the owner of the lots, and I'll be developing these lots. I brought quite a bit of material to share today to address all of your concerns. I'm first of all, the slab, I'm not even sure where the slab foundation idea came from because the blueprints specify a crawl space with a raised foundation, and I brought that for your review. I also sent it in with the my most recent response. On all 4 of my responses, I included the foundation plan with the raised foundation. So I believe that's already been addressed. Maybe it just got overlooked. But I do have a full copy of the blueprints here with the raised foundation. This exact home was built on Martin Luther King and on a raised foundation using the plans that I have here with me today. It was with board and bat, but you could see it could easily be sided with lap. It's a simple change. It does, just because a blueprint shows board and bat, that's just one concept. It's not a requirement to follow that.
Is that approximately the height of the foundation you're proposing for all 4 of these?
This is a sloped lot, so the crawl space will vary in height depending on where you're at.
Do you have
So
an
we can
idea?
set a minimum of 2 feet at its minimum height of 2 feet, but it would get higher as you would go down the hill. Or, we can specify, when we pour the foundation and set the block, we tell the foundation mason how many blocks to set, and that will determine the ultimate crawl space height. And we could also write that on the blueprint right there at the site so he knows exactly what to do.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but codes department will comment on that, but I think you have to have 18 inches under your floor framing, so that'll determine your height above
Yeah.
grade 2, so that'll all be worked out with codes department.
Right, we usually do more than that because ease of maintenance, the taller your crawl space, the easier it is for all of your HVAC, mechanical, whatnot, to go through your crawl space and maintain. So we usually do at least 24 inches. Do you have any other questions regarding the foundation plan? Oh, this was also built by the same GC who has submitted for the permits on these 4 homes. So, any other?
Did that project, what happened with what did you do to finish the CMU, the block?
This home?
Yes.
This is not my home. He just built this home at another location. He used rough face block, so when you purchase your foundation block, you can either use a smooth face or a rough face. If you do a smooth face, you could surface it with brick or whatever kind of stone, or you could stucco it. If you do a rough face, usually we just seal it, and we could seal it with various colors or just a clear seal.
Okay. Your guidelines would ask that it be stucco or brick clad foundation.
I'm sorry, what?
The guidelines would ask that it be stucco or brick foundation
Instead of this?
instead of split face,
Okay,
but we can talk about that more.
okay. Stucco could also be colored as well. Any other questions about the foundation?
Yeah, I think the confusion comes from this drawing that looks perfectly flat and the site that has some slope to it. And so I think what we're looking for is a drawing that shows what the slope would actually look like and what the foundation heights would be, because that changes the look of the building.
And the reason we ask is we've had similar drawings come before us, and then the building was like 8 feet above the ground, and there was some
Right,
crazy, so.
right. Well,
We're having to be more particular now.
well, these elevations are meant to emphasize the home itself, regardless of what kind of foundation it's on.
This slope, this lot also, I'm a resident Van Arian. This lot, all 4 of the lots slope down away from the road, so the view of the house that you're seeing on that picture is gonna look a lot like what it's gonna look like from the road. The loss of elevation will be behind the house primarily, if that helps.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
fairly flat at Gap Road. It's a section of Gap Road that goes up and then flattens and then goes up again. So this section, these 4 lots, where they meet Gap Road, there's not a lot of change in elevation across the 4 lots, side to side.
Okay.
Yeah, most of the elevation change is down into the back, behind the home.
But to Josh's statement about the project we mentioned that ended up being a ridiculous height because the topography was not flat, if this is above 30 inches, it's going to introduce a guardrail and stairs. Of course, you're going to have stairs. So like that's what we're looking for in the drawings, is to have the updated, have the updated information so that we can really see what the building will look like. And I know you mentioned this is just like an idea of what it could be, but we're here to review what it will be, because of what it could be is not what we're approving today. We're trying to approve what it will be. And since the base metal top of the home is important, that's why we're interested in how it touches the ground and what the foundation and stairs and access and guardrails, all of that looks like, because that's important to what the home will be, especially if there's some grade change across the site.
I understand the concern. Having that drawn ahead of time makes building income level housing prohibitive, because I would have to hire quite a few people to determine the topography, lay that out on the site, conceptualize it. And these are entry-level homes, and having that kind of barrier to get to just to permitting, it's a lot for me to be able to do that.
Well, where did you get these? Didn't you paid for these, correct?
Yes.
So they're not site specific?
No. I mean, I could probably sketch something out for you, but actually modifying these drawings for each lot, I'll have to hire an architect and spend thousands and thousands of dollars to do that.
But a sketch is appropriate as long as it just shows what the intent is.
Well, the intent is to have, at the highest point of the lot, a minimum of 24-inch crawl space. And the lot would, at that point, determine the height on the back end of the house. And I can do that math and sketch that for you. I can do that.
Yeah, and I think all of us, well, I don't know, maybe not, but 24 inches sounds appropriate. And that's something we can sometimes give over to staff, so you don't have to come before the board again. That's kind of what the staff recommendation is, correct?
Also, topography changes once you start excavating and prepping the site. So you can fill in low spots, and kind of even it out to some degree.
Yeah, I mean, I think there at least needs to be a sketch provided to staff for staff approval, because I know like you said, these are entry-level homes, but you're still selling these for profit, correct? So
Yes.
if there's money that's involved or time involved to get these built so that you can sell them, that needs to go through the due process so that we can approve them and don't set a precedent for other housing projects that come that say, well, that project didn't have to submit that drawing, so why do we have to? So we're just asking to understand fully what the look of them will be, and you don't have to hire an architect. Like Josh said, it could be your own sketch to understand what that will be so that we can
Okay.
just realize and visualize what you're proposing.
Okay, I can do that.
Did you have any other concerns with the staff recommendations?
The elevations, you want a differentiation among the 4 houses, so I did some modeling.
Oh, sorry, can you get to the mic? Yeah.
Each home would have a different color scheme and different porch railing type. So I have 4 different color schemes here, and I have 4 different porch railings. And none of them are board and bat.
I think when you give that sketch as a follow-up, you need to talk about what the cladding, the foundation material will be as well, like we talked about. Make sure you include that in your
Okay.
sketch, what you intend for that to be as well, so staff can review that.
Okay. Let's see, I'm pulling up the case file.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Sorry. So what you're looking for is the cladding for the type of cladding we're going to use on each house for the foundation.
Yeah,
And-
whether it's going to be stucco or brick. Yep.
Sure.
Mhm.
And then also you would want measurements of approximate heights of the foundation on each corner of the house. Is that the kind of information
I
you're
mean,
looking
honestly,
for?
it's less of measurements. It just needs to be accurate to understand what the scale of that foundation and how many stairs it will create and all those sort of things. And does the height create a guardrail and handrail, all that sort of stuff.
So we could go take some measurements at the site and get some locations of corners and get some heights on the foundation, and that would answer your questions, that kind of information.
I think if the elevations reflect what it will do to the building, meaning
Okay.
that's the sketch, that's what we're trying to see is what will it make that front foundation look like if it's raised 24 inches and has a handrail and all those sort of things.
Okay.
Yep.
Just a clarifying point, I don't want to speak for Cameron, but I think the most helpful thing is to have a drawing that shows how the building is actually going to look, not just data from each corner, but how the foundation looks or will look once it's built.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you could draw on top of these drawings to show us what's going to happen.
Okay.
I did have a follow-up question on the windows. They look like they're almost full height. Are they going to be full height? Or that tall?
No, they'll be more similar to the actual home that was recently built on Martin Luther King.
Okay, double hung, yeah, regular, probably 30 inches or more above finished floor. Okay.
Right. I think the only other item was the driveway. And I think there was a comment about being 25 feet back where their homes on the street are closer to the street. Before I send in a revised site plan, I just wanted to make sure I'm clear on all of the changes you'd like to see on the site plan. Did you have an objection to the 25-foot setback?
So the setback, the proposed front setback is not one of the items that needs to be revised as the condition of approval. The final site plan caveat is that it meets city engineering standards. So when you revise the site plan and submit for your permitting, you have that leeway to adapt everything to what the engineering department says based on safety. And so the comment on the driveway is that typically in the infill housing overlay, the recommendation is for the driveway to go behind the front line of the house at least 20 feet, so you're not parking in the front yard. But as is in the staff findings, this is a really steep road, and I'm not sure that there may be some issue with city engineering that they require you to have that turnaround. So the condition of approval allows you the capacity to work that out in permitting, saying the site plan meets city engineering standards, omitting that front yard turnaround if possible. Again, that's just because the infill overlay design guidelines discourage front yard parking.
Would a turnaround along the side of the house be a problem?
I mean, on the infill housing guidelines, no, but I think, again, that's something that you can work out in permitting. And if you'd like to submit revised site plans, that'll be great.
Okay, so the revised site plan at this point is really more concerned about the porch being represented?
That site plan is what's on our screen right now. So yeah, that doesn't show the front porch accurately, but also if you revise any of the parking, then yes, that would also be included.
Okay.
Lindsay, can you go to the staff recommendation slide?
Yes.
Well, and I'd like to say, if you use the board and batten for a detail element, that could add some variation to the elevations, and I think in a positive way. So I don't think it's necessarily you have to eliminate all board and batten.
Okay, I was under the impression that board and batten would not be acceptable in the neighborhood.
Speaking as a detail.
Sometimes it can be used as an accent, like in a gable, but just not, the guidelines discourage it for the main siding for the house as a whole. But if you wanted to do a shingle in one gable, a board and batten in another, a horizontal siding in a third, just to really mix them up a little more, I think is
Okay.
what Josh is.
Okay, so using it as an accent would be acceptable? Okay,
Yeah, that was what I intended to say.
okay.
I'd like to ask the board members if you guys, when you make a motion, and it's related to number 5, if y'all are comfortable approving based on the boards and the color changes, if you can be specific about the ways that you are okay with the design being differentiated, because typically that involves roof line changes, stuff like that, and so that's what that recommendation would entail. So if you can revise your motion based on what you want, that'd be helpful.
I had just a couple of general questions that are less more of the approval, but just because it's housing in these vacant lots. Did you all ever consider a denser housing model, maybe like a duplex or anything like that, and rather than just a single-family home on the sites?
I didn't consider it for this site because I didn't observe any duplexes in the area, and it looked mostly like single-family home. And I do try to build what I could see already there in the
Okay.
neighborhood.
I mean, this is considered the DDR location, correct, Lindsay? So with missing middle housing, you're allowed to bring out or to propose denser housing models for single-family lots, even if the absolute adjacent properties aren't necessarily those. That's something that can be considered and proposed.
I do have other lots where I am going to be proposing
It's not in
duplexes.
TDR. This property apparently isn't in that overlay currently, but yeah, if you have other properties, it's
I
something to
do-
consider.
I do have other lots where I intend to build duplexes,
Okay.
but for this,
Wouldn't be allowed to anyway. Yeah, that's we just realized. And my last question is, when you say, you mentioned your ductwork, are your crawl spaces sealed, or is it a vented crawl space with exposed ductwork?
it is vented and exposed ductwork,
Okay.
unless we put the unit in the attic and vent in the ceiling. But I believe the plan for this one is to put it in the crawl space.
Okay.
And there's an access panel.
If you all can ever afford it when you're moving forward with these and seal the crawl space or seal the attic, that you put that HVAC in, it'll be a lot more energy efficient for the end user over the life of the building. So it's just something to consider.
Yes, I recently met with a foundation specialist who recommended sealing the crawl space and encapsulating and doing that. And I actually am going to be talking to him about coming in on these before we, do the floor over, because that would be the most efficient point in time to encapsulate and seal a crawl space. So what he told me was that the inspectors are still giving him a really, really hard time when he proposes doing that. So he would like to see that happen in Knoxville, but he's getting a lot of resistance to that idea.
Yeah, and this is all on a side, I know, and I'll stop talking, but it's just, if these are, first of all, being built for people that this is their first time getting a home and they're going to be in it for a while and they can't afford much else, that'll make it be that much more comfortable and long-lasting for them with the energy efficiency of the ductwork being in the thermal envelope. I believe that a sealed crawl space is, if done correctly with the right thermal barriers and all that stuff, is allowed to be done. I mean, it's per code, you can do those. So I'm not sure who you were using as a sub discussing that, but it shouldn't be a major, like a barrier that you can't legally get over and build. So
Right, I was meeting with a rep from Master Dry.
Master
and-
Dry.
And it was about a home that has already been built, and we're talking about retrofitting a solution.
Yeah.
And he said, he really likes to come in on new construction early on to recommend the best foundation solutions. So to address not only, energy efficiency, but proper waterproofing, all of those issues. So, yeah, I am familiar with the arguments for that, and that's the direction a lot of new construction is going.
Yep.
Well,
Yeah.
these do look like great little houses for first-time buyers or many people. So if there's not any more discussion,
I have one more question for the
All right.
board with point number 5. So we've talked about differentiation being in color and in the railing and the porch, but not in the actual elevation itself. So, and there are 4 houses in a row. How do we feel about that? And again, based on the statement of affordability,
You're asking-
knowing,
you're asking about painting the railings?
no, she's talking about using 4 different types of railings on the porches and 4 different color schemes, but having the same exact elevation on all 4 houses.
I think what Perry mentioned about differentiating the end gables cladding type might be helpful, and that wouldn't mean you're changing the form. It would just be like, yeah, you could use shakes on one end gable, board and batten on one, and lap on the others, and just break that up. That would at least, it wouldn't formally change anything, and that wouldn't have to change your model, but it would at least give some differentiation in the cladding type.
I would love to see that worked into the motion on number 5 somehow.
Do you have a way of phrasing that you'd like to use?
It sounds like Perry or Cameron might be better suited for it.
I defer to Perry.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Perry's making a motion?
we can, yeah, okay, I can do that. I believe I will move that we approve these based on the staff recommendation clarifying on Article 5 there that the differentiation of the houses includes some variation in siding materials and accent locations like the end gable, and also including the request that you submit drawing that represents the slope of the site on the elevations to give foundation heights at each corner, which I think is actually, I think that's required in the application to staff for their approval.
Second.
And Perry, just to clarify, are you making this motion to include B, C, D, and E?
Yes, to all the staff recommendations plus that one clarification, yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on all 4 applications. All in favor? Or, sorry, is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for coming in.
All right, thank you.
Do we need to vote 3 more times? Okay.
Okay, so let's see. It is 1510 Texas Avenue, 7A24IH.
This is a new primary structure fronting Texas Avenue. It is 24 feet wide by 56 feet deep, and it'll be set 20 feet from the front property line. Parking is located to the rear and accessed from the alley. The one-story residence features a hipped roof with a smaller hipped roof massing projecting from the left half of the facade. There's a 10 feet deep porch. The house has an exterior of horizontal lap siding and a stucco clad foundation. So some of the relevant findings: the proposed front setback is consistent with the block, which has an average of the block face of 22 feet. The site plan has a walkway to the street. The proposed one-story 3-bay house is proportionate to the dimensions of the lot and the context of the block. It's also differentiated from the adjacent new construction. There's another new infill house here. This one will vary from that. The parking meets the infill housing design guidelines. The partial width front porch, the windows, the materials all meet the design guidelines. So the staff recommendation is approve 7A24IH, subject to the condition that the final site plan meets city engineering standards.
Thank you for that, Lindsay. Is the applicant here and would they like to speak? Please state your name and address.
Hey, good afternoon. My name's Todd Kennedy. I'm Assistant Director at East Tennessee Housing Development Corporation. Address 10414 Jackson Oaks Way, Suite 202, Knoxville 37922. Yes, I have that memorized. We are an affordable housing nonprofit organization that's partnering with City of Knoxville, KCDC, and the Tennessee Housing Development Authority for this project. We're purchasing this lot from KCDC through the Homemakers Program. This will be a federally funded affordable housing project that'll be for sale for first-time homeownership. It's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, standard infill project. We've built this same floor plan and design probably 20 times over the years. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We have 0-step accessibility in the back. That's why we have the ramp. Our funding requires accessible homes. So we'll do that. We have off-street parking in the alley. We've done this a lot, so we kind of know what the committee's looking for. We'll use traditional lap siding. It'll be vinyl, but we don't use Dutch lap, you know. This is just our hip roof variety that we like to put up, kind of change up the streetscape a little bit. So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. The foundation exposure there is what it'll look like at completion. We always get a topographical survey, so I like to show, you know, exactly what the finished product looks like. So we have something to hold our contractor to when we do inspections.
Well, thank you for that.
Sure.
I'd like to open it up for board discussion.
Just real quick, with the Homemakers Program, what is there, again, speaking about the energy efficiency and first-time home buyers, is there any exemplary or above code energy upgrades that you're providing in the home?
From the Homemakers standpoint, there's not. Homemakers is basically, you know, they just require code compliance.
Okay.
Our THDA funding, they require, it's not Energy Star. We don't get the Energy Star certification, but we build to Energy Star standards.
Okay.
So this will be a traditional vented crawl space with the duct work, but we'll do the performance testing and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, higher insulation values. This will be 2x6 walls and things
Okay.
like that. Yeah, so it's not Energy Star certified, but it's Energy Star compliant, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to approve based on staff comment.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Todd.
All right, now we get to the fun part, election of chair and vice chair. Lindsay, you want to run that?
Yeah. Okay, so at the June meeting, we had one nomination for chair. Do I have any other nominations for chair for 2024 to 25? Okay, then we will have a motion and a second, and we'll do a vote. So can I have a motion to nominate Suzanne Taravella as the chair, or to elect Suzanne Taravella as the chair?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. So I heard Josh Wright, and can I have a second?
A second.
Okay, Cameron, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, welcome Suzanne.
Yay.
And then we have we had two people nominated for vice chair for the next year. We have Jared Worsham and we have Cameron Bolin. Do we have any other nominations for vice chair?
After lengthy conversations with Jared, I am a proponent for Jared Worsham and retracting my name from the nomination.
Okay. All right. So would you like to make the motion to elect Jared?
I would make a motion to elect Jared Worsham for our vice president.
Okay. And a second?
I second.
Vice president.
That too. This is the RNC.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, guys.
All right. And with
disappointed.
Laura seconded
I was
that one.
disappointed by the lack of campaigning, by the way. No buttons. Yeah, no speeches.
All right, and with that, we'll close the meeting. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Josh. See you next month.